Well, tough restrictions designed to prevent COVID-infected travellers from returning to Australia aren't working, according to the West Australian Premier McGowan. Jonathan Lee joins us live. Jonathan, we heard the Premier today calling for much tougher measures.
Yeah, Ash, good afternoon to you. Yes, between state leaders and the federal government, Mark McGowan amongst the most frustrated. He believes recent measures which have been put in place and agreed to through the National Cabinet process are being fudged and are failing. Basically, they're measures designed to keep COVID-19 out of the country, measures which are designed to stop COVID even getting into quarantine. Take a listen.
Last week we agreed that if you were coming out of India, you would need to spend 3 days in another location, get tested in that other location before boarding a flight to Australia. Now, I don't know if that's occurring. But clearly we agreed back in, I think it was November of last year, maybe December, that anyone coming from overseas to Australia had to get a negative test before boarding the aircraft. Yet what we're finding is large numbers of people are arriving who are COVID positive. So clearly the system isn't working as intended.
And Jonathan, a frustrated Annastacia Palaszczuk has also taken aim at the federal government.
Yeah, Annastacia Palaszczuk's blood is boiling up in Queensland. She's frustrated over regional quarantine. If we go back to January 14, she first raised the prospect of Wellcamp Airport being used as a regional quarantine centre. Many people might not know Wellcamp Airport. It was built by the Wagner family privately at Toowoomba, a good hour west of Brisbane. The Wellcamp Airport, through the Wagner family, is suggested as an alternative for quarantine. They'd like to do it there. They believe it's safer than doing it in the city. It would, though, just require the federal government signing off on it. The feds, though, won't give them a yes or a no.
What I say to Greg Hunt is let's listen to the experts and let's listen to the health advice. We now have the AMA, the Australian Medical Association, backing in my calls and Mark McGowan's calls for regional quarantine facilities. It's logical and it makes sense. I'm at my wits' end here because I have been calling for this. The facility in Toowoomba would have been built by now. All we are asking for the federal government is to say a simple yes or no. Will you allow international flights to land into Wellcamp?
Now, Ash, this is one of the very interesting fracture points. You might think that Mark McGowan in the West might agree with Annastacia Palaszczuk over on the East Coast that there needs to be regional quarantine. And while he does in some regards, he doesn't actually think a new facility should be built and set up through taxpayers and through the Wagner family. He thinks the federal government has enough options that are already on the table. He wants to see Christmas Island used. He wants to basically turf out those who are there on character grounds, send them back to other facilities and use Christmas Island or other military facilities to bring in those coming from other countries to go into quarantine. Have a listen.
To make all these things work requires a bit of work and, and flexibility and effort. Not just pushing back and saying, no, can't do. There's solutions to these things if they wish to do so. I mean, they could clear Christmas Island of potential deportees and put them into another facility in Australia that is secure if they wanted to use Christmas Island. Just requires effort, that's all.
So I guess, Ash, there's a number of arguments on the table at the moment. The federal government, who believes they should continue to use the current system, hotel quarantining in the cities close to hospitals, and the state governments, a number of which believe they should use regional facilities. As for where those regional facilities are, well, that's still very much up in the air. Ash.
Jonathan Lee, thank you for the update live there in Canberra.